Disclaimer: this story contains mature themes intended for adult viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. He had a way of looking at her that made the air between them feel smaller, like a room drawing in close. The sheet slipped from her knees, and she stayed there, half turned toward him, laughing at something quiet he'd said, that laugh soft and private, the kind shared only in the thin hours when the rest of the world is a separate country. His hand found the small of her back, fingers warm and sure, not greedy but clearly claiming the moment. She leaned into him with the familiar ease of two people who knew each other's rhythms. Fingers brushed, breaths matched, and the space became a conversation of touches and sideways smiles. Their apartment smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and coffee, and through the thin bedroom door came the muffled hum of the building, ordinary, domestic, comforting. Yet right here, on the bed where they had folded laundry together and argued over late-night playlists, there was an electricity that felt new. He teased her with a tilt of his head, lips curving in a question. She answered with a look that said yes without a sound. They moved around one another like dancers who had learned the steps over dinners and rainy afternoons, sometimes clumsy, often gentle, always honest. She was 28, she told herself, steady in years. He was younger, earnest in ways that made her pulse. Neither of them needed labels tonight. The teasing had an intimate quality, a shared history of coffee cups on the balcony, of small kindnesses that had folded into larger ones. She reached for his wrist, held him there while her eyes traced the line of his jaw, and the joke that had started the moment dissolved into something quieter and more urgent. Then the knock at the door, 3 soft taps, polite and ordinary. It sliced through the private bubble like a cold finger. She sat up a half-inch too fast, breath catching. He froze, caught by the sudden sound, and the easy warmth between them shifted into a new, taut electricity. She fumbled for the sheet, laugh gone, converting desire into a sharp hush. The doorknob turned. For an instant the world narrowed to 2 heartbeats and the small, fragile space between protection and exposure, and then the door swung inward. Someone steps into the doorway, and everything that had been unspoken hangs in the air, a look, a choice, a moment that could break the quiet or bend it into something else entirely. Her breath hitched as the door cracked open, but it was only the hallway breeze no one stepped through. He was already beside her, hand catching the edge of the blanket she had pulled to her chest, his other pressing lightly to her shoulder to steady her. Close now. Closer than before. His mouth curved into that slow, teasing smile she'd come to recognize, the one that held questions and promises all at once. "You always flinch like that when you've got something to hide," he whispered, his voice warm and low, not accusing, just curious in that way that made her pulse flicker. "I wasn't hiding," she murmured, cheeks flushed. "I was just surprised." His gaze lingered, a fraction too long. "Surprise looks good on you." She exhaled a soft laugh, but her fingers tightened in the blanket. There was still tension in her spine, but not fear. It was something else, the pressure of everything unsaid between them, building with each playful word, each quiet touch. He sat beside her, the mattress dipping gently, and his knee brushed hers. Neither moved away. His hand found hers beneath the blanket, warm and still. She let him hold it, then slowly turned toward him, the edge of her thigh pressed against his jeans, her shoulder barely grazing his chest. The closeness made her skin aware of itself, of the way his breath skimmed her cheek, of the faint scratch of his stubble when he leaned in, not kissing, just hovering. Waiting. "Do you always answer the door like that?" he asked, nodding toward her tangled robe. "Only when I forget I'm not alone," she replied, and then, a beat later, "or maybe I forget on purpose." His brow lifted. "Oh, you've been hard to ignore lately," she confessed, voice thinner now. "That's all I'll say." He let the silence stretch just enough to make her wonder, until his fingers gently turned her chin. His voice was velvet and smoke. "That secret you're keeping, it's showing in your eyes." Her smile faltered, not because he was wrong, but because he was too right. She opened her mouth to deflect, to tease, but the words didn't come. Instead, there was the quiet sound of her heartbeat ticking between them. Outside, the doors still hung open slightly. Inside, they both stayed frozen, not out of hesitation, but because the moment felt like a thread pulled too tight. One tug, and everything could unravel or finally fall into place. She leaned into his chest, just enough to feel his breath catch, just enough to remind them both how little space remained between what they said and what they meant. The robe slipped slightly at her shoulder, and he grazed it back into place with a slow, deliberate touch that made her eyes flutter closed. Everything in the room felt slow, heavy with tension, the kind that made a whisper feel like a shout. "You do that on purpose," he said, voice husky near her ear. "Do what?" she murmured, knowing exactly what. "Make it impossible to think straight." His hand rested lightly on her thigh now over the blanket. Her fingers curled against his chest as she tilted her face up toward him, about to say something playful until her gaze caught something behind him. His phone, half tucked beneath the pillow, blinking with a new message. A name lit up. A woman's name she didn't recognize. She hesitated. Only a flicker. But it was enough. He noticed. "What?" "Nothing," she said quickly, trying for a light tone, but her hand pulled away before she could stop it. "I just thought I heard something." His brow furrowed, not buying it, but he didn't press. He just reached again, this time cupping her cheek. "You sure?" She nodded, but the moment had shifted. Not broken, just tilted, like a picture frame hanging crooked on the wall. "Tell me," he said softly, "what you're afraid of." She looked at him, really looked, and the urge to ask who she was nearly spilled out. "But instead," she said, "that I'm not the only one thinking about this when the doors closed." He stilled. "Are you?" she added, voice almost a whisper. His reply came slower. "I didn't think you'd care if I was." That silence again, loud, stretching. Her heart thudded like a warning. "I didn't mean it like that," he added quickly. "I just didn't think we were there yet." "And where exactly are we?" she asked, eyes searching his. He didn't answer. Not in words. He leaned in again, mouth brushing hers, his hand sliding around her waist, anchoring her like he didn't want her drifting too far. The kiss wasn't rushed, it was full of questions, apologies, longing. A promise and a dare. But even as she kissed him back, that name glowed behind her eyelids. And neither of them said it aloud. His lips lingered on hers longer this time, slower, deeper, like he was trying to quiet all the unspoken things with the press of his mouth. She responded before she could think, fingers sliding into his hair, pulling him closer. The blanket between them slipped down her legs. He didn't move to fix it. Neither did she. Their bodies molded together, not rushed but inevitable. His hand found her hip, anchoring her as he leaned in again, mouth tracing down her jaw, his breath warm against her neck. Her skin shivered where he touched, not just from desire, but from the ache of everything she couldn't say yet. "I think about it," he whispered against her skin. "Every time you walk past me. Every time you laugh like that." She swallowed, heart slamming behind her ribs. "Then why are you still talking?" That made him smile, a quick, hungry grin, and then he pulled her into his lap, the shift sending the robe slipping even lower. Her thighs straddled his, and the heat between them rose, not just from contact, but from everything that had led to this moment. Every look. Every almost. His hands slid up her back, steady, reverent, until they cradled her shoulders. "You're not just some passing thing to me," he said. "But you already knew that." She pressed her forehead to his. "Then tell me the truth." He blinked, surprised. "The message. The girl. Are you hiding something?" He hesitated. His thumb brushed along her collarbone as if stalling. "It's not what you think." "That's not a no." His mouth opened, but at that exact second, a sound echoed down the hallway. Footsteps. Someone was in the apartment. Their eyes locked. Panic, tension, heat, it all fused together in an instant. She scrambled slightly, grabbing the blanket, breathless now for a different reason. He stood quickly, adjusted his shirt, eyes darting to the bedroom door still ajar. Neither of them spoke, but the moment balanced dangerously on a knife's edge. Whoever was out there, they were close. And neither of them were ready to explain what had just happened, or what was about to. Then came a knock. Not on the door. On the wall just beside it, slow, deliberate. And followed by a voice. "Hey, everything okay in there?" She froze. He swore under his breath. The knock on the wall seemed to echo louder than it should have. They didn't move at first, just stared at each other, breaths locked in their throats. Her pulse drummed wildly in her ears as the voice outside called again, gentler this time. "You good?" It was his roommate. She knew it now by the tone, casual, almost teasing. But the timing couldn't have been worse. "I'll be out in a sec," he called back, voice even. Too even. Silence followed. Then the soft padding of footsteps retreating down the hall. But the spell was broken, or so she thought. She started to pull away, adjusting the robe, heart still hammering. "We can't, not now." That was too close. But he didn't let her move far. His hand slid around her waist again, warm, grounding. His forehead dropped to hers, lips brushing her skin like an apology and a promise all at once. "Let me ask you something," he murmured. "Why do you keep stopping when you don't want to?" She blinked. "Because we're not supposed to be doing this." "Says who?" She hesitated. "Says reality." He chuckled under his breath, fingers tracing slow, daring patterns along her spine. "Reality's never once made me feel like this." She softened again, too quickly, maybe, but it was hard to hold on to fear when every part of her wanted to give in. She kissed him again, and this time, it wasn't tentative. It was deeper, fuller, the kind of kiss that pressed years of questions into seconds. His hands explored gently, reverently, sliding along the curve of her waist, her back, never crossing the line but pressing right up against it, testing the edge of what they could get away with. Her body answered before her words could. And then, just when her thoughts began to blur, came the second twist. His phone lit up again. This time, she saw the name clearly. Jason. A man's name. She stiffened, just slightly, and he felt it. "What?" he asked, lips brushing her cheek. "You said it wasn't what I thought," she whispered. "Then what is it?" His breath slowed. "It's complicated." "That's not an answer." He pulled back enough to look her in the eyes, and something flickered there, not guilt, not quite. More like caution. "Jason isn't just a friend." She stared at him. "Are you?" "I've been with him before," he admitted. "But not recently. And not like this. Not with anyone like you." The words landed hard. But not in the way she expected. It wasn't betrayal. It wasn't even confusion. It was something deeper, a realization that she'd never really asked what he wanted, just assumed she knew. Their silence stretched long again, but this time, it was thick with choices. She reached up, fingertips brushing his jaw. "Then why me?" "Because," he said, voice thick, "you look at me like I'm more than whatever I've been." Outside, the apartment was quiet. But inside, they sat wrapped in tension and heat, tangled in half-whispers and the echo of truth. And just as she was about to respond, the doorknob turned slowly this time. No knock. No warning. Just the door creaking open. The door creaked halfway open before either of them could react. She tightened the robe around her body, her heart leaping to her throat. He stepped in front of her instinctively, his body a shield, eyes locked on the hallway. But no one entered. The door simply stayed ajar, wide enough to be noticed, but empty. They stood frozen in the breathless quiet. Then a sound. Faint, metallic. A soft click. She moved to the door quickly, pushing it closed. That's when she noticed the phone outside the room, not his, not hers, sitting on the floor, camera lens tilted perfectly toward the bed. Her breath caught. Someone was recording. He grabbed the phone and locked it, jaw tightening. "It's not mine." Her hand went to her mouth. "Who would?" He didn't answer. Not yet. The weight of it hit both of them at once, the intimacy, the vulnerability, the risk they'd just taken, and the possibility that someone had seen everything. But somehow, instead of pulling them apart, the danger only pushed them closer. He turned, eyes searching hers. "Whoever it was, we'll deal with that. But right now, I need to know, was this real for you?" Her answer came without hesitation. She crossed the room and pulled him to her with both hands, pressing their bodies together like the tension had become unbearable. Her lips found his, hungry and raw, nothing held back. His hands roamed her back, her waist, daring and steady, sliding over the thin robe that no longer felt like a barrier. "You're real," she whispered into his mouth. "And I don't want to pretend I don't feel it." He lifted her effortlessly, laying her back onto the bed like the rest of the world had vanished. The kisses deepened, each one a release, not just of desire, but of months of built-up silence. Their closeness was fire and safety, urgency wrapped in tenderness. Fingers tangled. Breath grew uneven. Their bodies spoke the words they hadn't been brave enough to say. And then, the second phone vibrated. Not the one from the hallway. His. She reached for it on impulse, and before he could stop her, the screen lit up. "New message from Jason. I left it where you said." Did she find it yet? Her heart stopped. Eyes wide, she looked at him. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. She held the phone in her hand like it burned, her eyes locked on the message. His silence only made it heavier. But when she finally looked at him, what she saw wasn't betrayal, it was fear. Not of being caught, but of losing her. "You planned this?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. His chest rose and fell once, twice. "Not the way it looks. I asked Jason to help because I didn't know how to say any of this. I didn't know if you felt the same. The phone. I just wanted proof. Something undeniable between us. Not to expose it. Just to show you later. If I had to." She stared at him, the edges of her heart caught between hurt and something else entirely. "Something softer." "Proof," she repeated. He stepped closer, slowly, not touching her yet. "I didn't expect it to go this far. I didn't expect you to let me in the way you did. But I swear to you, what happened wasn't for show. It was real. Every second." She looked down at the phone again, then set it aside and met his eyes. "Then show me now," she said. "Without the cameras. Without the fear. Just us." That was all he needed. He came to her like he'd been holding his breath for hours, like she was the only safe place left in the world. Their bodies met again, but differently now, slower, more sure. Every kiss was full of apology and longing. Every touch a quiet "I'm here." The passion between them still burned, but it was no longer about escape. It was about anchoring. She traced her fingers over his jaw, memorizing him, grounding them both. "We're not perfect," she whispered. "No," he said, resting his forehead against hers. "But we're honest now." Their embrace lingered in the soft light, wrapped in the heat of everything they'd just survived, not just a moment, but a choice. They chose each other, despite the risks, despite the mess. And as they lay back into the bed, still tangled, still whispering, the night finally grew quiet around them. Not because the tension was gone, but because they no longer needed to fight it alone.